the other.
Okay, we're here with Matt about to start the gardening program.
You go to tag someone and you see their name pop up and then disappear.
Oh, yeah.
Before you get to
Talking Facebook at the
moment. Okay, no, I swear I saw it. Then you try to replicate what you did. No, gone forever.
And
Right,
the
I'll leave it
other
there.
thing I find funny on Facebook too is, well, this is not to do with Facebook, but when I'm doing the gig guide, you've got all these band names. Band names are hardly ever unique.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
What was that one we did today? Stone Cold FaceTime or something
Right,
like
yeah.
that. Something really, I'd never heard of them before. There's about 7 bands called that.
Yeah.
And you tag the wrong one. And you get a message from someone in Yugoslavia saying, no.
Thanks for playing us. That was always fun. Like, we do it with Jason, trying to find these obscure bands who, are fantastic, but you get it wrong and you're like, oh, we just shouted out the wrong band, you're going to be on our show, and it's like...
Well, that becomes an issue with baby names now too, because people are saying they Google the baby name. And if the baby name has got like 30, if there's 30 Matt McCrees in the world,
oh right,
no, they're going to spell it MHATET, or
Well, didn't what's his name? Aston Kutcher register his kid's name's Wyatt or whatever. He went and made sure he registered that email address and that. Took that Facebook name, so it was all ready for when his child.
I did that 2 years ago for my kids, so they got their name.
Oh really?
Oh yeah, I got Nick Plus and Ali Plus. I missed Ali even 12 years ago.
Yeah.
They've got their names on not Facebook, but their Gmails.
Yeah.
So, and then now you've got to go for the live account, and you've got to get everything.
Yeah. Ali Plus 1973.
Yeah, whatever. That's right. Yeah.
I got Matt McRae Hotmail with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then you got, and then
Is
you got your
Hotmail still
Apple
going,
account.
is it?
It's linked to my Gmail account.
That's
right.
Which is linked to your Yahoo account,
which no one uses anymore.
No, there's
and I've got my
enough out
Yahoo.
there.
Yeah.
So because Microsoft is like Xbox and they own all these other little like YouTube and stuff, and so it's all like you have a Microsoft account now. So if you want to look at anything, it's like, oh, I want to go to YouTube. Yeah, just click here and you get that's now linked up.
And with all the cloud storage, I get confused between work and home, and then I've got OneDrive for work and home, and I've got Google Drive for work and home, and it's just I've got to remember where things are and move them around. Yeah,
it's getting more and more complex. They need a centralised thing.
I think that's what Apple tried to do with iCloud, but it just didn't really work.
No.
Well, I think they all need to be on the same page, which is never going to happen, is it? Like Dropbox, Google Drive, and like OneDrive don't talk to each other.
iCloud,
They all did, imagine, but all in iCloud.
and then there's the Amazon, because if you've got your Amazon storage as well.
Oh right.
Yes. If you've got an Amazon Kindle account, you can storage with that as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, you can, if you install a NAS system at home, a network and attached storage, particularly Synology, they have they will synchronise your OneDrive, your Google Drive, all Dropbox, everything down onto a drive. So it's just another folder on your desktop. But then you need a password to get into that.
And Dropbox got in early because they were ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
And so I remember if you signed other people up, you get
more and more
storage
stuff.
for yourself.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I got a lot out of that.
Yeah.
In
It's
the early
just
days.
they're going through it now, and so if you haven't used your account for a year on Dropbox,
that's
it's
right.
getting knocked off.
Yeah.
It's become my transition account. I have the sort of a to-plu section in it, and I jump things into there, and then I distribute it to OneDrive or Google Drive. So that's become my fulcrum.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just have one on my work laptop, and then I can just go bang across to the different platforms. So I use OneDrive for all the financial sort of stuff. I use Google Drive for all my writings and stuff like this. And then I've got Amazon for any sort of, I use for sort of research sort of stuff. So, and I try and encourage students I teach and friends to sort of compartmentalise the different ones.
Yeah. I certainly do that with my email addresses. I've got one for everything. But as soon as someone decides that Neil Ashworth is Streetbeat, and now it's starting to really corrupt that Streetbeat email address now, because I'm getting personal stuff coming through, Triple H stuff coming through.
Yeah.
I say no.
And with these things here, you flick through different accounts, all of a sudden you're sending an email from the wrong person, from the wrong account. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I know. Now you know how to get me when I'm not at work.
Oh, these are clients.
Yeah. I've given up. I use this for all my work calls. I was trying to keep, the work, personal life things separate, but no,
it just doesn't work.
I work from home one day a week, and so if a client needs to speak to me or something, because we do quite. I'm not even out in the yard anymore. I'm more in the office, and so if someone needs hot water or something.
I'm surprised you're not wearing a suit then, man.
Yeah. No, I gotta stick. You gotta have that facade. So I look trustworthy, right? I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm joking.
I'm working in the yard and I've got an old-looking uniform.
Yeah, I've got an old shirt. Got my name on my shirt.
That's my brother worked for Bunnings for a while.
Oh yeah.
When the small period of time where he could hold down a job. And he said whenever someone asked him a question in Bunnings, he'd just say, look, can you ask someone with an older looking uniform?
Older looking uniform or older looking person?
Yeah. But I was there getting some paint the other day, and Friday afternoon to get paint there is ridiculous, because there's only 2 guys there, and they're always serving other people, and really bad, but I couldn't find what I was looking for. Like, I got my paint, he's mixing it up, I was having a chat with him, nice guy. I said, do you know where I was doing rods in my wardrobe. I said, I need to get these. He goes, you come with me. So he walks me to the other side of the store, stays there for 5 minutes, explaining what to do. You get this, and there's $5 hacksaws in the thing, you cut your own lengths, and no. I'm like, fantastic. He goes, or if you want, we can go down the other end. I said, no. You go back to the paint shop, because there's a line behind it. You're walking down here. I love your dedication to wardrobes, because I just did my ones all at home, and I used to hold a bus up if you want. I'm like, that's great. Because he'd be obviously in the older uniform, he'd been there a while, knew what he was doing. So
I was embarrassed. My Bunnings story is quite embarrassing. I walked in and there was a really helpful teenage girl there, and I was going to go to her, but the person behind her signaled me, said, to go over. So I sort of walked past her, and on reflection, it looked like I brushed her, and I felt really bad about it. And I went over and I was asking about starters for lights. And as I went through and paid, I went through and I apologised to her on the cash register, and I said, look, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to brush you, but the person behind you signals me to go to you, because she was reaching out to sort of offer help for me. And I felt so bad about it. And she was really appreciative, and then she cracked a joke. She made me feel better. She said, I don't know anything about starters anyway. So I was lucky, but geez, I felt bad about it, because how you just jump.
Do you have a Bunnings story, Heidi?
I've never had a sausage sizzle at Bunnings. Is that what you call it?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, never have. So that's my Bunnings story.
Wow.
Saturday, get out there.
Well, that's quite in the conversation.
I'm not allowed to. I'm not allowed to stop and have it.
Why?
Sausage is too unhealthy, You live a healthy life.
Oh yeah, and I mean, I know from the Triple H sausage sizzles, they are the worst sausages with the cheapest bread.
Yeah. So come on down and support us.
They've all heard it.
No, I really.
They can't see
good.
anything else. They don't know it's you. They might know your voice, but.
That's all right. But isn't that what I think? That's half the joy of it, though, isn't it? Like the sauce, the fat of the sausage soaks into the bread, and then the sauce gets in there too. And
You got the onions.
Yeah.
The onions.
I want a sausage sandwich.
Yeah.
Okay, making me hungry.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first session is, which is starting in about 4 minutes.
Yeah.
We're just going to, leading question is Bureau of Meteorology. That site I sent you?
Oh yeah, I even wrote myself notes.
Yeah,
I sent it to myself a messenger. So
excellent. And so we'll just talk a little bit about that, what the Bureau of Meteorology and the CSIRO is saying about here. And I guess we're all bringing it back to what does it mean for our garden? That's what we're thinking. And then after the break, we maybe talk a little bit about, well, what if you're in bushfire-prone areas? What do you do there?
Oh, that'd be good.
Yeah, and then my fallback question, if we run out of, is are there any trending plant fashions this year? And how do we keep our garden fashion forward?
Without spending a small fortune changing every season.
I was going to take a photo of mine and bring it out and show you, but it's up there, so I can't. So it's safe.
No, that's fine. I've got talk for days.
Okay.
Do you have a garden, home?
We do have a garden, yeah. It's more of a rocky,
Oh yeah.
how would you describe
in
it?
the sandstone areas?
Yeah, so it's like the plants growing out of rocks and it's all native plants and things like that. It's not sort of a grass garden
Yeah.
with flower beds and things like that.
So you're on a sloping block of land?
Sort of, yeah. But it's nice. It's cool in the summer and nice in winter. Nothing's so dark.
So is the house sloped that way, the house there, or down the hill?
Down. Yeah.
On the bush?
No, it's about one street away from bush.
Okay. Right. We hear that we're talking about bushfire zones.
Yeah.
Are you safe from one street?
Yeah, exactly. Touch wood, there haven't been any bushfires up in that section of where we are. But there could be. Yeah.
You're away from it?
Down the end of our street is just what do they call it? That leads to the freeway that leads to the Karinga Chase National Park. So I'd have to burn down about 20 houses before it got to us.
They've given me permission to give out a little special for the plant bug this weekend. Is that going to be a problem?
Not at all, no.
Just a free thing to see sold. It comes in a $1 coffee. So
There you go. Wow.
Nice.
We get all these bargains coming to
yes.
Streetbeat. I hope someone claims that I'm going to have to go down and claim.
I think the care just out of interest, but it's all right.
It is.
Yeah. Reposting it? Or
Yeah, I put it on mine. Yeah.
The live feed.
Yeah.
So you can do that. You can repost
You
the live
share
feed.
it and then.
Is that what you've done? Okay.
I think. I don't know. It's an experiment.
See what happens.
Yeah.
That's all we're doing. We're just experimenting with this. I walked up the stairs with them and caught them out. Straight in live.
I took my gran to see Elvis this week.
You took your...
Gran, she's 94. And he came to visit her old age home and she loved it. She was singing along and clapping and it was so sweet.
What was it?
Elvis.
Really?
Yeah.
What you said your gran?
An Elvis impersonator came to her old age home.
And what was it? Your grandmother or your...
My grandmother, she's 93.
What did you call her, mate? You called her...
Oh, Nana. Did I call her Nana?
No, I don't know what you said. You said that, yeah.
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 But she loved it. It was great.
Yeah, that's good. They would love that. 93, 50 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
In the 40s.
Yeah.
40-year-old Elvis lovers like my mum. Mum's younger than that.
Yeah, no, it was good. All of that in there.
Okay.
All right.
Here we go. Well, we'd like to welcome to the studio a regular gardening expert, Matt McCree. Welcome to Streetbeat, Matt.
Oh, thank you. Regular and expert. I like that. That's
Well, it's something we wish for all our health, isn't it?
Makes me sound like I know what I'm talking about, which is good. So.
Look, well, let's jump straight into it, Matt. You run a couple of nurseries, one here in Mount Colah and one over in Belrose, so you must come across this a bit lately. The Bureau of Meteorology and the CSIR have jointly released an analysis of how climate change will affect local areas, and this is what they had to say about the Hornsby Shire. They'll say that average temperatures are going to continue to increase. They've got very high confidence in that, and more hot days and warm spells are projected. A very high confidence in that. Decreases in winter rainfall, increased intensity of extreme rainfall events projected with high confidence. So when it comes down to it, how does this affect what we choose to do in our gardens? What should we be doing?
Yeah, so I had a read of it too. So there was a few things I think from even what you and your local area can do. So like the extreme rainfall events, you know, we just had it last week before the time, but you know, all that rain, it was fantastic. But it's fleeting, you know, so like rainwater collection is going to be a big thing, because if it's becoming less frequent, you need to store as much as you can. So those 5,000 litre tanks that everyone's been putting in are great, but if you have the space, you should harvest as much as you possibly can, because it's only going to help, you know, back up your supply. And you know, I mean, most new houses now have to have the toilets that flush with the rainwater and all those sorts of things, which are great. But when that runs out, it backs up to the town water, and then you're just using your town water.
And also, so much of that stormwater, if it runs off from your property into the very efficient stormwater system we've got, it ends up, you know, feeding the fishes.
Yeah, that's right, and it's going nowhere. And they were saying, like recently, the rain water it wasn't soaking in because the ground was so dry. It was just running straight off. So a lot of it, and then around the dam areas, because it was so dry, it was just soaking in. It wasn't actually making its way to the dam in that first downpour about a month ago. It was that second lot that we had that actually finally started getting in there. And so it's just important that we have to do everything we can to conserve as much water as we can, so when it becomes less frequent. And the other thing with the severe events that we're going to get is like erosion problems, you know, all that clearing of land and all these large hard concrete surfaces that the water then goes somewhere, or not always into stormwater, you know, just out, and you know, erosion and clearing.
What's the public's understanding of all these processes about water infiltrating? Like you said, the first level of rain had no impact. Did the general public got a good awareness of this, or is there a good need for education?
I think so, because we explain it a lot to people, how important, you know, you think, yeah, water's so important for a garden, but it seems to be a question asked almost every day at the nursery, like, oh, what can I do? And is it, you know, how important is it? Well, it's the most important thing. And the biggest thing we get is someone comes in with a dead plant or a dying plant. So, oh, what's wrong with my plant? Not enough water. Oh, I watered it. You know, when I got it, I watered it. Yeah, how long ago was that? Oh, I've had it for about 2 weeks. It's been sitting on the deck. So I water it once a week. I don't know. Our plants look so good because we water them every day, or every, you know, as needed. As much as they need, we give it to them. That's why you come to a garden and it looks so good. You can do the same thing at home. It doesn't need more fertilizer. It doesn't have a pest disease. It doesn't have a fungal disease. You know, you just need a little bit more water. And I think people, like, from just going to understanding, they don't. A lot of people don't grasp that that's what they need. I think to then explain water movements and things like that makes it.
Can you overwater?
Of course, yeah. Like with anything, like, things need time to drain, and a lot of plants need that time to dry out in between waterings and that sort of thing, so that you can go too far the other way. But it's all about learning and as you go, and yeah.
Okay, and so what about you know, the fact that we're, well, say particularly in Mount Colah and Asquith, where they've, you know, cleared out all these blocks, they've built 4-storey, 5-storey walk-up apartments. But the first thing they do, you see it when a new block, or they knock down a house in a block, the first thing that happens is the grader comes in and levels it absolutely flat.
Nothing left on the block at all.
Nothing left on the block at all, not a scrap of topsoil, nothing.
Yeah. So it doesn't really help for, you know, that was once an area that water penetrated in, got down into the ground, did all those sorts of, you know, great things. Now it's all, again, a giant concrete structure with a little bit of a garden around the outside that may or may not get looked after, and you know, then it becomes a problem for all that excess water going into the stormwater system and all the waste that goes with that. You know, drains are constantly clogged with leaf litter and stuff. So there's less trees now, so less leaf litter to contend with in the stormwater system. But yeah, I just think harvesting those, I mean, and those buildings should all that water that comes off those buildings, they dig a big hole for the car park underneath. Why not dig a bigger Yeah, just more storage for water and things like that, because it's detention tanks and things they have to put in to stop the water flow before it then goes to the stormwater system. Why not turn those detention tanks into storage tanks and detain some, yes, but store the rest and use that again in the system?
So you're talking about the controlling of the movement of water.
Yeah.
So it's sort of petitioned off till it goes into the storage, but our problem is we don't have enough storage at this stage.
Yeah, like there's not enough. Like again, a 5,000 litre tank is great, but that lasts you. Like I was doing it for a client, and we were trying to decide. Had a bit of trouble getting some water to the front yard, and did some calculations, and I said, as good as it's going to be to get your rainwater tank to pump into the front of your house, buy a bigger pump, and dig up the paths and things to get this pipe out there. I said, doing the maths with the heads, because he wanted grass irrigation and those sorts of things, and it was only a 5,000 litre tank. I said, doing the maths, if your system runs the way we're planning, you're going to be out of rainwater in 4 days. So we're going to spend thousands of dollars digging up all your paths and things to make sure that this pipe can get from the back of your yard to the front of your yard to potentially supply the whole house for 4 days. So that tank's not going to be big enough. That's a great, good on you for putting in a water tank, but
yeah, it needs to be a 40,000 litre water
but
tank.
then who's got space for that, So
Yeah.
I suppose I'm saying we need more, but don't have a solution. So
Are there many people in the Shire that are filling in their pools to get 50,000?
I've not actually heard it at all. So
I've heard of a few people who've done that.
okay.
I'd love to fill mine in as someone to do it.
Yeah, look, and me too. But Marion, you didn't hear that. We're going to go to a break, and we'll be back talking to Matt McCree about what should we actually be planting in our gardens these days. It's a long break again. We've got another long break.
It's hard. What do? You can't tell everyone to go dig up their yard and put in.
But that's a good point. All that work for 5,000.
Yeah, it was nothing.
4 days.
Yeah, because we had this little hole. We couldn't find the hole, so we had to do all this work to dig up all this stuff. Retrofitting
to a house. I mean, if you don't get it done when the house is built, it's quite hard.
And I just said to him, what's the point? Like, save it for your backyard, front yard. We'll just put it on the main, because it's going to come from the main anyway. Once you do
it was
it.
sort of in rural areas, was it?
No, it was in Barrera.
So really, they could have turned the tap on at the front.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
like
that's
they just wanted
They're trying to do the right thing.
I
Yeah.
said, well, it's great, but your tank's this big. There's not much water in there. They use a lot of water. The heads.
Yeah, I mean, we've got 8,000 litres in water tanks, and as you say, you only need 3 or 4 weeks without rain, and all of a sudden, I hear my pump going click, it turns itself off.
Yeah.
Did you see the image about all the dams the level of water they got in it? It was in one of the papers last week. It's single digits in some of these places in Western New South Wales.
Right.
It's really water.
Not good. So that's just, we'll talk about it now, but planning the right things and using less when you can to save it for. So it's good now. Some of the plant brands actually put like a water chart on their tag, so they can say like this is low, this is like the 5 drops, and it tells you how much you're going to need to do it. So which is good. It's important.
So I had my pool fence with my neighbour, the neighbouring the pool fence with the neighbour replaced, so I had to replant that whole area along the side of the pool. And I just went with olive trees and what's that other European, not heather, I keep calling it heather, lavender.
Oh yeah.
Just lavender, yeah. And
that's it. It was to do its own thing.
Yeah, I wanted to do native, but it was just so much easier.
Yeah. Lavenders will just look after themselves. Occasional trim, a little bit of water every now and again if you want. Olive trees will just grow and grow and grow and grow, and
there's those, and from your place as well, the dwarf olive trees in a barrel.
Yeah, okay. Beautiful.
I look forward to an olive growing one day.
Yeah. Make sure you pickle them. I love watching people that have a few olives in the trees. They'll grab an olive and eat it, and you can just look at their face because they just, you can't eat them straight off the tree.
Well, who was the guy who decided to put it in potash? Let's put these olives in potash, and now they're edible because that's how they treat them, don't they?
Yeah, because now they just do it in vinegar as well.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, you can just brine them, and that my nonna does them, brines them. Yeah.
Right. I learned something. You can go now, man. Here we go. Okay.
On each Saturday, just after Shimoda on Triple H 100.1 FM.
My name is Jessie.
We're talking to Matt McCree, our resident gardening expert, about what we should be doing in our gardens in spring. Now, we actually missed the beginning of spring.
Yeah.
Does Sydney really have a 3-month spring?
I think they've changed. We have like 7 seasons in Sydney now. You know, like,
Yeah.
It's like sprinter, they're calling it now. Spring and
Sprinter.
winter. Yeah. I don't think we don't get a true winter here anymore. You know, so it's sprinter. I think we've just left that. We're in proper spring now, and then it'll be summer in no time. And yeah, so there was a funny report that we were reading at work a couple of months ago, just about how it's all changed. And
Well, I know the Durrag people had 6 seasons.
Yeah, well,
Their
there you
6th season, and now we've got 7.
yeah,
Because we're better.
Yeah,
So, sitting, you know, with obviously with global warming, with the temperatures rising, with the weather changing, what are the things that we should be planting in our garden in Sydney now? Well, particularly in the Hornsby Shire.
Yeah, so it's all those water-wise things. So people have that misconception that, natives, I've got to do all natives because, you know, they're going to be the best thing. But some natives need a lot of water, some don't, it depends. But you don't have to, like talking off air, like you've got planted olive trees and lavender, fantastic, because for one, lavender is a bee attracting, which is fantastic because we're, you know,
Yeah.
I could talk all day about the bees next time, you know. So that's great, you know, giving them places to come, and then olive trees are fantastic because they require, you know, very minimal maintenance, water care, that sort of thing. And they love the dry from that Mediterranean climate. So looking at things like those, you want those, you know, really drought hardy grasses are fantastic because over winter you cut them back. Come spring they shoot back through and they
Yes.
look great. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm looking at my backyard at the moment. Oh, God.
Yeah.
But you can buy a chemical to put on your grass these days that stops it growing, can't you?
Yeah, I've had a few people ask me for it. I have not been able to find it.
Oh, okay. Yates, I believe.
yeah,
is the
okay.
original
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
So you're not talking Roundup or anything like that.
No.
Stop it growing dead.
That's
Yeah.
a temptation. But a number of people I know are getting rid of grass out of their
Yeah.
backyard bit by bit and just going with, you know, the gardens, the the vegetable garden,
Yeah.
and getting rid of the grass completely.
And because it's such a large, it's a lot of maintenance.
It's a lot of
A lot of
maintenance.
work, like you're top dressing, you're mowing, you're feeding, you're aerating, you're irrigating, you're this. You know, who's got a weekend? Then that's your Saturday gone.
Yeah.
You're quick.
Yeah. Well, my actual lawn's going to be about 10 square metres, so I'm fine, you know. But and there's so much more you can do. Like there's been that move towards, you know, organic gardening and do it yourself, and, you know, the rising cost of living. And why don't I grow some tomatoes, and why don't I grow this? Because it's a better use of, like, back to water, you know, why we're pumping so much water into keeping this big mass of green when you could just rip it all out, mulch it nicely, have a couple of plants and use a third of a tenth of what you were using if you plant it right. You know, some of the best gardens you see are like a nice path with a bit of mulch and a couple of really nice plants. You know, it doesn't be clustered up with plants. It's you know, you can do really nice things with other alternatives. So.
Well, you were describing your garden, Heidi, weren't you? Sounds a bit similar to that.
Yeah, so at the back we've got a deck, which is lovely, and then it faces onto sort of a rocky outcrop, and it's got native plants that are growing in between the rocks. So it does require quite a bit of watering, but minimal maintenance. So it's nice to sort of like cool in summer, great in winter.
And well, let's go to the vegetable garden
Oh,
then. Yeah, because obviously, you know, as we're moving out of being a temperate climate to slightly warmer than temperate, what should we be growing out there? Lettuce?
Yeah, I mean, you can't. It's that thing of planning ahead. You know, like tomatoes. You know, full sun plant, but mine burn at home. They in the full sun all day, they get burnt, and they still taste fine, so you still eat them. But you can do those things like building little structures to shade them and those sorts of things. So I don't think there's going to be too much of that going by the wayside yet. But we're in that season now, so we're coming to spring. So we're midway through spring. So you've got all those things that produce the fruit. So tomatoes, zucchinis, capsicum, chilies, all those sorts of things. And you can do your lettuce, carrots. spinach is an all year round sort of thing. Yeah, so I mean, now's the time to be planting these sorts of things out, because you're going to get your best crop now. Start planting now, because come a couple of weeks' time, it's going to be too hot to sort of start putting them in. You want to get them in now so that they can develop their roots and get into the ground and start sucking up more.
And should we be putting a little bit of sea salt out there?
Of course. Oh, funny you said that, Neil. Just for any Streetbeat listeners out there, so for Four Seasons Plant Bug in Mount Colah, if you go in this weekend only, mention what did I say it had to be? I was just say I heard Matt on Streetbeat on Triple H FM, and they'll give you a free thing of 500ml sea salt with any purchase. And the cafe just reopened, so they get a $1 coffee with the mention of this, segment.
Well, a lot of plant shops now, similar to bookshops, are opening cafes, becoming a sort of destination.
Well, would you rather sit in a bookshop or a beautiful garden centre with plants and
Both.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah. Okay, would you rather sit in a shopping centre?
Business.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. A shopping centre, or just the middle of nowhere or side of the road. No, I'd love to sit in amongst the plants and it's a great little setup there. So yeah, it's a place to be. So get $1 coffee this weekend by mentioning this. It's wood-fired coffee too. So,
Wood-fired?
Yeah.
How does that work?
They roast coffee, they roast it with wood. It's got a very nice flavour.
So they stick it in a shovel in the pizza oven or something like that?
This is grain kernel by kernel, the coffee gets roasted. It's fantastic, the process. Yeah, so
Okay.
but sea salt is it's sort of the joke of the nursery. It's not a fertilizer. It doesn't give any nutrient, or gives a very minimal nutrients to the plant, but it's a fantastic plant tonic, and it's one of the best things you can use. There's a couple of other people. There's one called Plant Starter by Amgrow, and there's a couple of other seaweed solutions, but they are one of the best things you can use on your garden when planting, because they help with so many things, like helping the soil retain more moisture, helping the plant recover from shock, stimulate plant growth. All these wonderful things that you want the plant to do. You don't necessarily need to fertilise at the start, because the grower's done that for you. Pop it in the ground, bit of sea salt, that just gets everything going, gets the soil happy, which then in turn makes the plant happy.
So when I plant something,
yes,
sprinkle it with sea salt.
Yes,
a diluted solution.
Diluted solution. That's it.
Okay.
1 watering can full all over your plants. So the brand is Don't Forget the Sea Salt, that's why.
Okay. Well, look, we're going to play a little bit of music now. We're following the flower theme this afternoon. This is Michelangelo, Melbourne band, Midnight Flower.
What thanks? More gardens?
Yep.
Okay, Mark, how you going? Okay. And will we go from there straight into story time?
No, we'll have the break.
Okay. And then if it's okay with you, I might move you into this chair.
Yeah.
And we can have it.
Yeah.
Because I've got a big camera right now.
Okay.
That's okay. And Matt can stay and tell us what he's been reading.
I might leave on that note.
Okay, so the two things we still want to cover is bushfire prone areas.
Yes.
Is there anything we can do?
Yep.
And trending plant.
I'll try and yeah, that's right.
Because up and down my street, it's the cucamelons they've taken over, those little Mexican things. Everyone's growing.
You're growing them.
Yeah. Well, once you grow them, you can't get rid of them. Ah, they're forever. Not going away. And a lot of turmeric is that's popping up. Because once you plant it, it's there.
It's there. It can be invasive like a ginger, because there's gingers that are native weeds and that sort of thing, but it grows similarly, but it's much easier to control. But yeah, definitely.
You might be onto something about the books and the.
It's not a bad idea actually. As soon as you said it, I was like,
Because I used to live in.
Bookshops dying.
No, they're on the way back up, aren't they?
The Beecroft one's shut apparently, but when I lived down in Barrel, there's Burklow's Book Barn, which
Oh,
is the
yeah.
book barn of the shop that's here, and there's one in the eastern suburbs. But I've noticed recently they actually have weddings there as well.
Yeah, right,
So
yeah.
they have their gardens, they have the book place. So is your place big enough to have weddings too?
Probably, yeah. We've got 3 acres, so.
So you could probably set up a
Yeah.
whole sort of thing.
I think they'd kill me if I even suggested the idea.
Well, some friends of mine in New Zealand, they used to have an orchard. And when they closed the orchard down, they turned the fruit barn into a function centre.
Oh, yeah.
It lasted a year. He said,
Oh.
one more 21st.
Oh, right,
One
yeah.
more 20. That's not happening.
Yeah,
Too much effort
Yeah.
cleaning up.
you want weddings and
Civilised affairs.
that could be wild too.
Yeah. It's what about like trendy?
I'll just say hi.
Oh, hello. Hello, Tony. You remember Matt, of course.
Yes, I do.
Hello.
I do. I do, mate.
Yeah.
30 seconds.
Yes. But I'll probably want to speak to you a little later, Mel. Yep.
You're on Streetbeat on Triple H 100.1 FM. We're talking to Matt McCree, local gardening expert. Matt, the bushfire season has started early this year. They've
Yes.
already declared it for the first week of September. Is there anything we can be doing in our gardens if we're in bushfire prone areas?
Well, it's all those things that we always talk about it in winter. You know, the maintenance things. I mean, you should have done it if you listened for the winter segment. You know, clearing up, getting ready for these sorts of things. So it's clearing out all the debris, pruning. Or it's a bit late to prune everything back, but just getting rid of all that dead wood out of your plants. Having, cleaning your gutters, all those sorts of things, and just that general tidy up that should have been done in winter is going to help now, and then keeping everything alive. Watering and because
That's a big ask, though, keeping stuff
well,
alive.
dry dead plants are going to attract
Yeah.
those embers faster, and if it's get those.
Look, I remember about 10, 15 years ago when there was big bushfires down in Ku-ring-gai Chase there, and me and a friend were sitting up on the roof of our house with the binoculars trying to see if they're coming towards us, and realising that just the week before I'd laid down, as you did in those days, a whole lot of newspaper and put a whole lot of mulch on top of the newspaper. I've put down paper and kindling.
You help
Here
it
comes
spread.
the fire.
Yeah. It's usually, I think it's also that just the ground covering and things, making sure it's all clear, like getting rid of that really, because wood chip and stuff it's hard to, like when you light a fire, it's hard to get the bigger stuff going, like your big wood chips going. If you're losing like leaf litter as your mulch, that's going to go up a lot faster than say a bigger, chunkier wood chip and that sort of thing. So
Now, a side question to that is a discussion I've had with a friend who has, acres up on the Central Coast. Now, he uses all the leaf litter from his backyard from the eucalyptus trees, but I'm telling him that's not a good thing to put in your garden, eucalyptus litter, if you want to grow vegetables.
yeah. So with any sort of mulch like that, so you're out there with you chip up some wood and that sort of thing, you need to let it sit and compost, because what happens is composting takes nitrogen. So if you put that fresh compost on your garden, it's going to draw the nitrogen out of the soil to help it break down, which will then release back in. But in that meantime, you've sucked all the nitrogen out of the soil to help the mulch, and you've turned all your plants yellow, because nitrogen is the greening element. So what makes plants stay green is nitrogen. So that's why the main thing in most, you'll see like NPK on the back of fertilizers. The N is nitrogen, and that will, that's what you want to feed them with. So tell him to mulch, compost it first, then put it on.
Compost it first, then.
But not on your veggies though. You can use things like sugarcane mulch and
Yeah.
that breaks down nicely.
Which you can
and
get
feeds.
from your local plant
Your
shop.
local plant bug at Mount Cola.
That's right. And when you're doing it, you can pick up.
Oh, your sea salt. Don't forget 500ml sea salt with any purchase this weekend mentioning Matt on Streetbeat on Triple H.
And a cup of coffee.
And a $1 cup of coffee.
Well, there
Good
you
coffee.
go. Look, last bit then. Trending plant fashions. We all like to have our garden fashion forward. We always like to, showing off for our neighbours a little bit.
That's
What
it.
should we be putting in there?
Because when you said this to me before, and you'd mentioned the little, what is it, the melon?
Cucamelons.
Cucamelons, yeah. So we don't see a lot of them. I sell the seeds of those only, and then the turmeric. That's a good one, but it's actually moved. So the millennials have gotten into plants. I don't know if you've all seen this, but plants are a big thing now. Very fashionable. Some of the girls work have over 70 house plants. So the gardens move from outside to inside. So we sell a lot of indoor pots and little plants, and there's a plant retailing in a Bunnings, so you know Bunnings and other garden centres, but $250 a plant for a little 20 centimetre pot. Now, because you know if Bunnings are selling it at that price, it's an expensive plant, you know, because it's this very fashionable. It's a green leaf with split down the middle, half white, and then on the green side it's got little dots. So it's called a Monstera constellation, and people are paying money. They're paying the $250 for this plant. So we've moved away from formal hedges and this lots and lots of the same plant, or you know, rows of this, rows of that, to bringing it inside, getting a nice pot, getting a nice plant, and that's my feature. That's my child now. You know, I've got to look after this plant. So you've got things like monsteras. There's a variety called Adansonii, which is called the Swiss cheese plant. So the leaf is covered in holes. My wife has very successfully grown one, I will say. She's into the plant thing too, so we have 5 house plants now. So
wow.
Growing our collection. I'm letting her handle that because you know, she can learn. I can teach her and see. And there's a philodendron pink princess. So it's a little, again, leafy plant, but it gets pink and white new growth. And you got the old staples, Zanzibar gem or ZZ plant. Some people might know it as. You see it in a lot of restaurants. It's like a cane with leaves coming out, but it's impossible to kill. It's the most drought-tolerant plant.
I like it already.
This tag says
I don't
thrives
care
on
what it
neglect.
looks like.
Yeah, it says thrives on neglect. You put it in a pot, you put it to the side, and it just does its thing, you know. So those sorts of really trendy, but 1 or 2 plant, like one of them. You'll buy one, that's it. You'll have your one plant, and that's it. Another one, Pilea. It's Peperomoides. It's Chinese money plant, so it's just little rings of leaves on long stems, and it's loves water. You know, got to keep them moist and that sort of thing. And just you split them up, give them to your friends. Yeah, so those are some of the.
There's another thing. Those plants that are completely contained in a terrarium, and they reckon, you know, every 3 months you put 3 drops of water in there.
If that, yeah.
If that.
Yeah, the oldest one in the world, I think, is like 75 years old and hasn't been opened since the day it got corked up. And it's just an ecosystem that, you know, self-seeds, dies down, does the whole life cycle thing.
They die down and come back.
Yeah.
I wish you'd told me.
Well, it depends on how you've done it.
Put the cork in it.
Yeah. My brother-in-law is actually the terrarium expert now. That's what he spends his time doing. He'll find a weird and wonderful container, make something up, and make some gifts for people. So we give him a fish tank to turn one into. So yeah, but that's the thing. It's that comes to that. You know, it's a little garden. It's your piece of, because as things change, and that's there's been some reading on it. That's why this indoor obsession has started, because people are moving into apartments. We were talking about before, you know, all these houses, 4-acre blocks being knocked down, built apartments. Where are you going to have your green space? You've got to bring your green space inside. And as Australians, we like to have that. You know, we've grown up with being outside and feet on the lawn and, you know, doing that sort of thing. So moving that green space inside with you.
And so does that mean that, you know, people are buying grow lights as well?
Yeah, lots. I got a little kit, you know, you can.
Oh, really?
Put your seeds in it. Yeah.
Well, there's another business there too, because basically people go away. You need someone to look after not only the pet
plant sitting. Yeah.
You've got the plant sitting.
So you can pet plant sitter in one, you know, come walk your dog and water my plants.
Yeah, but when you tell them to go up to the attic and not such a great idea.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, look, Matt, we've run out of time. I can't believe it. It's gone so quickly. What's the special deal at Plant Bug this weekend?
You mentioned this at Matt on Triple H on Streetbeat, and I'll give you a free 500ml sea salt with any purchase and a $1 coffee.
Wow, that's fantastic. We'll be back after this break to find out what everybody has been consuming with their media this week.
That laugh, that's the one where you can put on the promo.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I still haven't done the.
If you get that, that was instantaneous.
I was feeling guilty about that over the last 24 hours as well. But
what's that?
Just moving that along.
But I reckon that'd work, because I think the context is all right. I don't know, you have to think about it, but that was genuinely instinctive. That was hilarious.
I tried to think of something, but I was just scratching my head, going, I don't know how.
We need to group work it.
Yeah.
We need to.
Yeah, you can't do it by yourself. It's too hard.
Yeah.
I need to turn this off and restart it. That's the end of the gardening show on Facebook. We'll come back with my glasses. Rick, how are you going?
Suppose you're insight into another country